Hi there, everybody, and welcome to Fantasy Golf Picks. It's the morning after the Masters. We're both a bit tired. Good morning, Kit.
Morning, yeah. Morning after the first major of the season. It was a great week. Perhaps not the most dramatic of final rounds, but, Hideki looked so good, didn't he? What did you make of it, and how did your team go this week?
Well, I was falling asleep, I won't lie. And then he went and hit it in the water on the 15th and suddenly woke up a bit, tried to make it interesting, and then Xander obviously gave it back to him. I just think it's amazing how hard it is to win around Augusta. Like, that 16th hole, you play that in a practice round, you nearly hole it. And actually you see that, don't you? Like the guys that are about 20th, 30th, not in contention, they're nearly holing it. And now Xander just, what was he doing? I think that's a really interesting way of how a hole plays differently depending on the pressure. Yeah. Team-wise, not great. There was me going, there's no rookie will ever win it, other than Fuzzy Zeller, and then Will Zalatoris popped up, and I thought, oh wow, we might get another rookie. But yeah, team-wise, I had a debate actually on Twitter just before, I think it was Wednesday night, and I was like, I'm considering dropping both Rory and Rahm. Well, I dropped Rory. I did keep Rahm, luckily. I was trying to get Reed in my team, didn't, which was a bit disappointing. But yeah, I did okay, other than the fact that Cantlay was my captain, and I didn't see a shot of Patrick Cantlay because he was that rubbish. I don't think he'd have made the cut, even if it would have been 100 people that can make the cut, bless him. So, yeah, my best performer was Jon Rahm. Justin Thomas did get me excited like he did most people. And then he made an 8, didn't he? He took 5 from about 80 yards. Yeah. Yeah. I think the best thing I've learned from the Masters was the Jon Rahm interview saying, you can make a bogey, but you can't make doubles or triples. And he said that the last 2 Masters, he's only hit it in the water once in those 8 rounds. And that was just something that made me think, right. But I actually thought I'd pick quite steady players. Obviously not around Augusta. So I got 667 points, and most of them was from Jon Rahm. How did you go?
Yeah, okay. I had Rahm as captain, so that was big. He was the second highest eligible player on the final leaderboard. Interesting, if you look at the players who were eligible for the fancy race to Dubai, if you picked Will Zalatoris, hats off to you. I was in a little bit of a quandary watching it, whereby I actually had money on Will Zalatoris, but I didn't have him in my fantasy team. So we did mention him in the preview pod that he could be a decent outside bet. And I went with the betting at the longer odds rather than picking him in my top 6. So it was kind of bittersweet. But yeah, then you go down to Rahm, and exactly the points dropped off. You had Will Zalatoris got over 1,000 points, I believe, in the race to Dubai. Let me just bring it up real quick.
Well, Reece Kelly that actually won, while you're looking, Reece Kelly won the week, and he had Will Zalatoris as captain. So, which was huge. He was 3,130 points, which that was a master stroke there by Reece.
1,150 points. So, and then it dropped off. The next eligible European Tour player was Jon Rahm, and he got 387 points for that, tied 5th. So it just shows you how much that drops off. And kind of, if you didn't have Will Zalatoris and you just had the likes of Rahm and Reed and perhaps Finau, a few of the other guys there, it's all a little bit much of a muchness to a certain extent. It was really Will Zalatoris was that big separator this week.
Yeah, it wasn't. And Reece Kelly did that. He had the likes of Rahm and Finau and JT in his team. But yeah, how many people picked Will? Was it 2%?
I think about 6% had Will Zalatoris, right. And incredibly, only about 2% had Justin Rose.
That was it. Yeah.
There weren't many indicators that he was going to perform as well as he did coming into the week, but still only 2% to pick such an established name, a proven Masters performer, I was really, really surprised at. I mean, you know, the likes of sort of Joaquin Niemann and Carlos Ortiz and things were in more teams than Justin Rose was. So that was really interesting. I was expecting it to be more, but yeah, good things for Rose, hopefully. It was a big result for him, I think.
Hats off to him, actually, because to play Augusta with, I mean, we can't say it was even his B game, was it? He was, you know, he looked like he was fighting his swing up until he walked out onto the first tee. I know Sean Foley and him are working hard on it, but when you see a player with all the camera out and all the gizmos kind of before he back to walk to the first tee, you think, oh, they're clearly working on stuff. But to get around Augusta for 4 days with 4 such solid rounds of golf just shows that when his long game does click, I mean, his putter and his strategy and his guts, I think, are clearly intact. So, yeah, look, I think we'll have to look out for him at US Opens and stuff after he's had, you know, another month or two with Sean Foley. So good Masters, did enjoy it. I wished it hadn't rained on Saturday. I think that was my one wish, because it was getting fun, wasn't it, Kit? I mean, the Shane Lowry chip in the water. If Shane Lowry can chip a ball in the water, those greens are treacherous.
I think that's the big difference. And what I think, looking back, won it for Matsuyama was he adjusted to those conditions better. He came out after that when it was playing a little bit softer, it was more gettable. And he was the one that made the most birdies and eagles when he came out after that and took advantage of it. That gave him the cushion and the freedom to play a bit more easy on the Sunday. You know, without that 4-shot lead that he was able to maintain pretty much through the front 9, those little wobbles that we saw he still had, even with the comfortable lead on the back 9, they suddenly take you back into a tie for a lead or move you behind someone else. Whereas he stayed in front and in control all afternoon on the Sunday because he separated himself after that rain delay on the Saturday. That was an absolutely key period and key adjustment for Matsuyama in winning the whole thing.
Yeah, it sure was. And as of kind of a couple of weeks ago when we did our picks, I wouldn't say our teams thrived, but we did say keep your eye out for, and you said Zalatoris and I said Corey Connors, which would have both, you know, both gave it a good go. That Masters app, when it pops up that he's just made triple on 12, and oh, that app is the best app in the world, but not when it just highlights his negativity. It's like, what are you doing, Corey? But yeah, at least we gave a bit of advice on the outsiders. So moving on, we're in Austria this week, just outside Vienna for the Austrian Open. Do you know much about the course, Kit?
A little bit. Diamond Country Club, just under 7,500 yards. So it's got a bit of length to it, a par 72 as well. I think they switched the 9s for a pro tournament rather than how the members play it. So it actually opens up with a very straightforward par 5, which is the easiest hole on the course, and finishes with a par 3, which is a little bit unusual in tournament golf, but brings its own drama. We do have a fair bit of course data. There has been a European Tour event there from 2010 to 2018. And then when we resumed in 2020 after the lockdown, actually the first event back was the Austrian Open at this venue. So it was sort of a challenge tour / European Tour event. Most European Tour players gave it a swerve and waited until that UK swing to come back. But we've got plenty of course data and history there. If you are looking to research back in those, just be aware that in 2018, it was the Shot Clock Masters. And for the 6 years, I believe it was prior to that, it was known as the Lioness Open, as opposed to the Austrian Open as it is now. But same event, same course at Diamond Country Club. So we've got quite a bit to go on. Plenty of water in play, pretty flat, and a fair bit of length as well. I know you've been chatting to someone who does know the course pretty well. What have you found out about it?
Yeah, I've been talking to Christine Wolf, which is an Austrian player that plays on the Ladies European Tour. She says that you're right. I think it is the longest course in Austria, just outside Vienna, but it's normally played in the summer. But this year it's been brought forward. Is it because it's replacing Portugal? I think it's been a little shift. Yeah, it's a shift in the schedule. So we're going from the height of summer to April, which means the ground has gone from hard and fast to a bit wet and a bit soft, and the weather it's going to struggle to get over double figures. There's going to be a northeasterly wind. It's going to feel like being back in the UK. So that's something to bear in mind, because when I was looking back at past form and people that have done well, I would say we'd be looking for someone that doesn't necessarily hit it a long way, is a plodder, good strategy, what we were talking about in Kenya and Qatar. But now with the softer conditions, I think it's making me rethink my choices.
Yeah, it's a good point, that, because most of my research was along similar lines. You know, greens in regulation and strokes gained approach, pretty highly valued there. And yeah, accuracy off the tee as well, and plotting your way round. Interestingly, those players that actually scrambled really well did well there as well, which isn't always a stat that sort of comes to the fore, because often you've got players hitting more greens if they're playing well. But I do, the fact that you've added that in this morning is making me think a little bit about some of my picks as well. I've got myself down to a 7 that my 6 will come from, and pretty much 4 as certainties. But it is interesting that you say that, and now having to take into account not only the fact that it's probably going to play longer than it has in the past, but also just generally how many of these tour pros these days are used to playing golf in 2, 3, 4 layers potentially, with a base layer on and the waterproofs on, because you might get a bit of rain coming through and it's only 8 degrees. There's a big psychological and mental factor to that as well, and just being used to playing golf in what are pretty wintry conditions essentially for a tour event. All right, with that in mind, who is on your list for selection this week?
Okay, I've got 3 certs. Okay. Matthias Schwab, Austrian player, home soil, but there are no fans there this week. I actually believe that part of Austria is going back into lockdown, so he's not going to have the support from the home fans. But bear in mind, he turned pro in 2017, and his first appearance at this event was in 2011. So he has plenty of course experience, and he actually made the cut there. I think he was about 16 when he did that. So I'm looking at the fact that he'll know that course, and I would expect he's played it in all sorts of conditions, because if it is one of the best courses in Austria, he's going to have gone there quite a lot just to do some practice and as I say, play the tournament loads of times. Also, what I like about him is he's just come off a 7th in Kenya, obviously slightly different conditions, but you think he's on form. So it's somebody that goes, right, he's obviously playing well. Well, why is he playing well? He's in the top 25 for driving accuracy and greens in regulation. And last year he was just as good in that department as well. And at the moment, his stroke average is just under 70. With a field like this, I do fancy him. I think also we saw at the Master, didn't we? Like Hideki is always followed around by, I mean, the biggest entourage ever. You see it a lot in the women's game, and there wasn't as many distractions there. And maybe Schwab might benefit from it being a course that he knows, but also benefit from the lack of attention. There'll be enough, but
those circuits around him as the home hope. Yeah,
it won't be overbearing. So that's kind of one. I picked him in my team before. And this guy, I pick in my team every single week. Kurt Kitayama, I'm sure you've got him in. I mean, this season he's been smashing it. He's got 35th, 20th, 12th, 9th, 2nd in Kenya. Actually played pretty poorly in the following Kenya, which I don't see as a bad thing, because you're going to miss a cut, but he's not one that normally misses that many. So I would see him bouncing back this week. He has been home. He's been back to Vegas. He's refreshed, which I think is important for these world players. He's one of the longest hitters on tour, and he's 18th on the race to Dubai. And when we look at the strength of the field this week, that puts him in the top couple in the ranking that tees it up. And then finally, Sam Horsfield. Now, I nearly put Sam in Kenya. And the reason I didn't is because I actually thought, where is he? Why has he not played in the earlier events? And he was injured. I think he had a shoulder injury after a race to Dubai in November, December. He actually got surgery on it, so didn't play Middle East. He bounced back in Kenya with 2 top 10s. Now, I mean, I've heard of Sam for years. I know Terry and Pulse worked closely with him. I think Terry Monday is actually his agent, and he's actually from Manchester. I think he's born in. No, he's a Man United fan, but I think he's definitely born over here. So he's not American, even though he sounds like it.
Grew up in Florida.
Yeah.
Swapped Manchester to Florida, his family, when he was quite young. So
not sure why. Blue sky today, Kit. Although it did snow. I went to hit balls yesterday and it snowed on me. So yeah, not ideal.
That might be why.
Yeah. But with Sam's always been known for hitting it miles. I mean, I think remember hearing about him, and it was like, this kid shot 59 and he was about 13 years old. But he broke through last year, didn't he? Had a couple of wins, Celtic Classic and Hero Open. Round resort courses, which this one looks like a resort course. Hits it a very long way, but I think because he's had a shoulder problem, he hasn't been able to do much other than chipping and putting. And he's chipping and putting in Kenya, got him ranked in like number 2 in stats. So I'm thinking, right, he's hitting it far because he always has done, and his tee to green's good. His putting and chipping is now progressed because it's had to. I mean, I'm talking a good game here, Kit, I feel.
Yeah, well, I think you're right in saying you look at a field like this and you've got to go, do you know what? Who are the real class players in it? Who are the players that are destined to be perhaps playing in the Masters in the future, or the WGCs, getting to that echelon? And I think Sam Horsfield is one of them. He's in the top 100 in the world ranking, so he's already at a point where he's on the verge of that. I've got him down as one of my definites. Kurt Kitayama, absolutely down as one of my definites. And the other two for me are Joost Luiten. I mean, his course form is sensational. I mean, he's got a win there. He's got 2 third places, a 6th, a 7th, all in the last sort of 6 or 7 visits. So his course form's sensational. He hasn't been on great form generally since the restart, but he did have a good result last time out. So he seems to have turned a corner, and he's going back to a course where arguably you could make an argument for him having the greatest comfort factor of any course on tour. Also, when we talk about the course, the Dutch in Holland, where the KLM Open was played from 2016 to 2018, there's been a lot of similarities in players that have played well at both venues. Joost Luiten being one of them. Someone like Ashen Wu springs to mind as well. He's won at both venues. And Luton has a good record there. So I just think his record, the fact he had a good result.
I've played the Dutch Open there. It's a really similar course. I mean, I hate to say it's like very man-made.
It is.
Yeah, as you say, loads of lakes. I would assume it'd be a bit windier in Holland because it is by the coast.
Yeah, the Dutch, it gets breezy around there for sure. I've played it as well.
I know what you mean.
Gale, when I played it. I probably didn't shoot the same numbers you did. And then aside from that, I've got Thomas Dietrich as well. I just think he's one of those players looking for the breakthrough win, and he hasn't always looked great in contention. But if he is going to get a win on the European Tour, you feel it's going to be in an event like this. And he just looks like a pretty good shout for a top 10 anyway. He's consistent. He's done well this year. And again, he's got a top 10 at this course previously on the resumption last year. And he's finished 3rd at the Dutch before in the KLM Open. So just a couple of little factors coming in there. So they're my 4 definites. And I've got 3 who I'm also looking to shoehorn into those final 2 spots. One of them is, of course, Matthias Schwab. I'm not really sure why he isn't in my automatic 4. There's just, his form hasn't been as consistent as it has been previously at the start of this year. And there's just something in my mind about that. And the other 2 are probably a little bit more outsiders that people might not automatically look at in their research, and that's Nino Battazio, who's on a really good little run of form his last 3 events, and Nicholas Lemke, who is arguably, going back to last season, the guy on the best form out of anyone teeing it up this week. He's had like 4 top 15s in his last 6 starts or something. Looks really solid. So it's for me trying to work those 3 into my final 2 spots, but also adding in perhaps a little bit of a look at distance I mean, the fact that Lemke's Swedish and it's going to be cold,
Yeah,
is that overly simplistic?
Yeah.
That's kind of the way I'm looking at the minute.
I thought him, because you've spoken about him a lot, and I'll have to admit he wasn't never someone that was on my radar early on in the year, but now definitely, was with that type of form. Is Justin Harding playing this week or not?
He is, yeah, he was in the field.
I mean, he's arguably the most on-form player. I could see a lot of people, he's a guy that does like to play in form, but yeah, I think that's an interesting one. I think a lot of people will put him in because of his ranking.
I think they will.
Yeah,
but I think
I'm not sure it's the go.
It's a weird one. Harding's a weird one for me in as much as his form prior to Kenya was actually pretty average to poor. We know he likes that course in Kenya anyway. No surprise he went in there, won, and then contended right up to the final round before just falling away a little bit in the second event. The form is obviously there, but on a course where he's got a huge comfort factor and he's already performed well, you take him to a different course, one that he's not played this venue before, and you take someone who's obviously South African, used to playing a specific style of golf and specific weather, stick him in the middle of Europe when it's going to be below 10 degrees. For me, there's just too many question marks there. Not to say he can't go and have a good week, but there are more question marks for him, for me, over those other players I've mentioned. If it was a 10-man team, he'd probably be in it for me. Yeah. But at 6 men, he just falls outside, I think.
I did ask Christine Wolf if there was any Austrians that she would pick. Obviously, Schwab came in, but she said Lucas Nemes, who has been doing well over in Austria. So the Austrians have Alps tours, they have Audi tournaments, and he won the last one. So she said, keep an eye out for him because he's the in-form local player as well. And in a field like this, I think someone like that can easily stand out. So that's somebody to think about as well. I mean, just kind of looking down the list now about who else we might want to throw in.
I mean, for me, there were a couple of...
I looked at Soren Keltsen.
Yeah,
because everything, but I need it to be fast running. Like in Scotland when the weather's poor, but it's fast running. It's like, right, Soren can get... He isn't the longest, but he just manages his game really, really well. So that's somebody to kind of keep an eye out for as well.
I mean, there's a couple of sort of danger guys that I think the name and the reputation might lull you in, that I'm going to put out there as you want to be a bit careful with them.
Okay.
First one being Martin Keimer. He's headlining the field as a double major champion. The form has been a bit iffy. It looked like he'd almost turned a corner the back end of last year, and there was a fair bit of optimism around him at the start of this calendar year, and it just hasn't quite come through. I don't know where Keimer's going to be psychologically in terms of the fact that he'll have watched the Masters this weekend and will have been thinking that's where I should be playing my golf, and where he has been for pretty much the entirety of his career. And now he finds himself, with the greatest of respect to the Austrian Open in this field, teeing it up in this event rather than being over in the States and in the run of major championships they've got there. Undoubtedly, reputation-wise, the headline man in the field, but I think there's a little bit of a red flag on him this week. I don't know if I've seen enough from him. I'd love to see him play well, though. I would love to. Chris Wood is another one who's won here previously and got a great record, but he's been struggling with injuries and his driver as well for a couple of years now. Needs really to show, although he's got good course form, needs to show me something more in general. So that might be someone to just be a little bit wary of. And also Adrianaus, who I know you like and I like.
Because I like him. Yeah, I like him a lot, but I'm a bit like you. Is the name sucking me in and going?
He's all or nothing. He'll miss the cut or he'll finish top 10. I don't feel he's a safe pair of hands, if you like. He's all or nothing. The fact it's playing longer now will suit him more than if it was in the summer. Mm-hmm. But in the resumption event last year, he finished 62nd in what was essentially a Challenge Tour field. I don't know. I want he's immediately a name when you're going through the list jumps out at you because of his form this year, but I feel there might be a bit of danger there. So
What
we've got
about,
Rasmus Højgaard in the field as well, who's really intriguing one this week.
yeah, go on, tell us about
We've picked him
Rasmus.
a couple of times.
Yeah.
But I'm now going to rethink, and Rasmus might sneak his way into my team with it playing longer.
I've got him. So I have like Dietrich, Luton, then I have Kolsart and Rasmus, Nicholas Kolsart, because Kolsart has won at the French Open, which is a similar style of golf course, lots of water, a big golf course. I would say there's always a question mark, a little bit like you just said with Adrian. Is he going to make the cut or is he going to finish top 10? There is that. I like Højgaard. I like him a lot. So I could see it's kind of between him and Kolsart, I think, who get my nod. So it'll be Kurt Kitayama, Sam Horsfield, Matthias Schwab, Thomas Dietrich, Juice Loughton, and then between those two. But I think we're going to have a similar type of a team, aren't we, again this week? It's just, can I get a captain right?
Yeah, can you get, your captain picks have been hurting you so far. I've been lucky the last 2 or 3 events where, in all honesty, my team as a whole hasn't done brilliantly for me. I think all of the last 3, my captain has been the top performer in my team. And that's turned what would have been a pretty poor week into a quite reasonable week, actually. Whereas if my captain had been any of the others, that's suddenly a poor week. And I think for you, it's been a little bit the opposite the last 2 or 3 weeks, when we've even had quite similar teams, and the difference has just been who's that captain.
I know. I'm going to have to seriously think about my captain and stop trying to. I've not gone safe. I'm like, right, I'm chasing. So I've gone and picked, outside of the box. I might have to play safe this week and go somebody like Thomas Dietrich, because, as you say, I just can't see him finishing outside of the top 10. Don't know if he'll win it because he hasn't won yet. But yeah, that might be my pick. Right, I think we're about covered, aren't we, Kit? It's been a longer chat than I thought. We've actually gone quite deep into this Austrian Open.
Oh, yeah.
So hope you've
there's always more to talk about than you think. If we haven't covered anything and you've got any questions, do add them to the comments below. We check it throughout the week. So any extra info you want or any questions you need asking, any players you're umming and ahhing about, stick it in the comments, and Sophie and I will get back to you.
I'll try and get back to you, but Coaching Indoors opens today and I've got 8
You're busy.
Yeah. I actually had a guy text me this morning going, I'm playing golf on Wednesday at Wentworth. Can you fit me in? So yeah, I'm working late tonight for you, Doug. So well, as I say, everybody in England, hopefully you'll be able to get to a beer garden and get plenty of indoor golf lessons and play outside as well. We've all been inspired by the Masters. Thank you for watching wherever you've watched around the world. Please like this video, subscribe to our channel. We do this every single week, and comment below. Please give me some advice on who you're picking, because I am rubbish at captaining. Thanks, Kit.